Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. Yes, viewers, it's just about 7:14 a.m. And as we continue this morning, in the first segment with us, we have Dr. Faith B.Yisrael, Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary with responsibility for the Division of Health. But hold up, folks. She's not here in that capacity this morning, but she's here as a member of the Tobago People's Party as we speak a little bit about politics and recent developments that have been happening in the local and national space with the formation or the pathway to forming this new political party here in Tobago, the Tobago People's Party. Good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Faith.
Good morning, Julien. It is wonderful being here. Thank you for having me on this beautiful, what is it, a May morning?
Yes. It's a May kind of morning. All right. As we get the conversation started, we want to delve right into things. The TPP, and we saw what would have been two meetings announced, official meetings that took place where there was a little back and forth in between one stating and person stating that's not what they anticipated from a launch, and then a clarity being brought saying, well, it was not intended to be a launch. So I want you to start by clarifying for us what has taken place thus far in terms of where the political party is at.
Certainly. Well, we all know that we've been in tumultuous times. The last couple months for us have been pretty difficult. Coming out of all of the fiasco of last year, a group of supporters really got together and said, you know what, we recognize all you're so busy, as in you all, the assemblymen, the secretaries, assistant secretaries, you all have been busy taking care of Tobago's business, but we want the party politics thing to start back properly, right? So a group of them, we actually got together, a group of them got together and started to work through this process of what it would take to get a party from the ground up. So the meeting that we had, the first meeting that we had, that was really that group reporting to all of us. And when I say all of us, including me, including many of the others, saying, you know, these are the things we've worked on. We've worked on getting a draft constitution. We've worked on some of these names. People were listeners. Every day I was getting WhatsApp messages with proposed names for parties. And we were just sending them all to this group of people who were pulling them together. And on that day, we recognized, you know what, there are so many names, so many things are happening, so many suggestions are coming forward. And we were really happy that that is what was happening, because it really is a ground up. This is something that we are building from the ground. We decided at that point that we were going to have another meeting to have a vote. We had about 40 names were suggested, final names suggested. The group at that time said, okay, let us put together a 5-member team. That team will take the 40 names, bring it down to 5, and then come back another day and vote. And making this the most participatory process. On the ground were the ones who decided, hey, this is what we call in the party. This is the symbol we're using for the party. These are the colors we're using for the party. And that is a process that is new to all of us. So that is what has been happening over the last couple months, where we saw those 2 meetings happening. So we now have a name. We now have an idea for a symbol. So we need to come back now with the actual symbol for the party.
Tell us something. We see a similar strategy being used by the TPP that would have been taken on more recently in the internals for the PNM, in terms of not seeming to permit the media into every step of the way. Tell us about that direction in terms of this development process.
Well, I kind of take umbrage to be compared with anything that those other people do. But what we did not want, and I want to use the example of the meeting, the executive meetings that we had in Roxborough. You know, we've been having those meetings. One of the meetings that we had in Roxborough was about a 2 or 3 hour meeting that we had in Roxborough. What we recognized coming out of those from the media perspective, though, were snippets, bites of a few of the exciting quote-unquote comments. And when you look at what was reported about what happened in Roxborough, it absolutely did not represent what happened in Roxborough. And what we wanted was to give our members, our supporters, an opportunity to be crystal clear, an opportunity to be honest, without themselves becoming memes or without themselves become these Facebook song bites saying this is what happened. So we allow them to be honest, and they were honest. They came and they told us exactly how they felt, but we wanted them to be in a space that was a safe space to do that and to not then become a national meme or a national soundbite coming out of that's why we didn't allow the media to come in.
All right, duly noted. One of the other areas that we want to look at, a determination as at the last meeting would have been taken. Is it in relation to one position only, or was there also an interim chairman identified? So we know that the current chief secretary, Fali Chavez-Augustine, would have been identified as the interim political leader. Just tell us a little bit about that aspect.
That is the only thing that was agreed on in terms of positions and so forth. We went into it. We asked, these are the options. This is the option. Do you agree with it? And the option was yes. We go in with Fali. Fali is we boy. We go in with Fali as interim political leader at this point, and we will build out as we go from there.
So where we want to delve into naturally, there is a current back and forth again within the public space that speaks to the issue of you came in under one political entity, you then transformed, indicating that you were separating yourself, went on to become independent. Some indicated that we had to return to an election immediately by law. Soon enough, we all came to the realization, wow, this has actually happened before in the Tobago House of Assembly on a smaller scale. So therefore, there's no law dictating. But some still feeling on the ethical perspective that, you can't change hats while you're in the game. You came in under a particular mandate, under a particular kind of direction. I want you to give us a sense now based on where you're heading as the TPP. Tell us a little bit specifically to be able to answer the calls and or the concerns of those who speak to the issue of the mandate under which you came in versus some indicating, well, we don't even know if they're going to hold fast to that. And then if they do, how can they hold fast to what was a mandate through another party, but continuing to lead under a new entity?
And that is why I'm glad that we're using the title mandate versus manifesto, because usually when political parties come to the people around election time, they come with a manifesto. They come with a manifesto. That manifesto usually says, this is what we as the political party is going to offer you, the people. Right? If you recognize, though, and I am speaking from the position of being the third candidate that was announced even in the THA election in 2017. Remember, I was on the ground with Mr. Duke. Mr. Duke was the first candidate announced. Melanie Roberts at the time was the second candidate announced. I was the third candidate announced for the 2017 THA election. If you recognize that we were doing something very different at that point, and that included using the term mandate, and we were very, very clear that we did not have a manifesto. We had a mandate. So what is a mandate? A mandate is what comes from the people. If you're seeing on the screen there, yes, that is what's for 2020. We had one for 2017, and it says national mandate. We have one for 2017, and we had one for 2021. And if you recognize, what it says is that what we did was really walk with the individuals who we were asking to represent. So we would go to farmers, and instead of us saying to farmers, this is what we will do for you, we said to the farmers, what do you want us to do? The farmers would say, for example, that we want, all we want to do is farm. We really don't want to hurt our head with the marketing and so forth. And if you recognize now, TADCO is now doing that contract farming where all you have to do is farm, and TADCO comes and takes all of the goods from you and takes it, and you don't have to worry about marketing, that kind of thing. The fishermen were saying, we have these issues. The business people are saying, we have these issues. This is what we want to do. And those are the things that we were taking to actually make this mandate. So it did not actually come from us, meaning Faith did not decide that this is what I wanted to do for health. But from speaking with health professionals, from speaking with people on the ground, we recognize that this is what Tobago needed for us to do for health. This is what Tobago needed for us to do for education and so forth. As a matter of fact, I have been going back through my emails and through my old files and so forth. And I actually have a bunch of emails, a bunch of WhatsApp messages, a bunch of single-page documents that was a paragraph where an individual would say, we do all of this work with cooperatives and we do all of this work with business sector and so forth. This is the paragraph we think you should put in as it relates to cooperative, or this is the paragraph we think you should put in as it relates to cruise ships and so forth. And those are the things that we then took from the people on the ground and then made it our mandate. So we are here representing what the people have asked us to do. Yes, we were unceremoniously, and you said it so nicely, we all left. No, Juliet. We were kicked out. We had no other choice at that point. We were kicked out of the organization, so we had to leave. But what we are doing now is still following what those individuals, what Tobago told us they wanted us to do. That is what we are continuing. And again, if you look back at the images of all of the documents, we never actually said this is a PDP mandate, We said a national mandate, a Tobago people mandate, a people's mandate. And that was specific because we understood that it was coming, the direction was coming to us from the people on the ground, and we would just be the conduit. We would just be the ones who execute what they are telling us to do. And coincidentally, this whole thing, if you really think about it as if we are building a house, as in what has happened so far, you really have a situation where you have, well, it started with 15 of us, 14 of us ended up going into the executive. You have 14 people building a house, right? You have, and I'm using Joel. Joel is a plumber. Joel has been plumbing from day one. Joel continues to plumb because that is what Joel has been hired to do. Joel keeps plumbing. You have a situation where one man decides he ain't want to start the building house crew again. And he get up and decide that he taking a name and go with it. Now, everybody else, the other 13 of us, are still busy building this house. Joel is still plumbing. I am one of those, all I can do is tote dirt. So I am still dirt building this house. Yes, the one person who was a part of this decided he no longer wanted to be a part of this house building team, then that is his business. That is his choice. The rest of us, we are still here actively building this house. And we have done so much work so far. And one of the things I want to just highlight really, really quickly, we talk about all of the bills that we've met and so forth. We now have a situation where my colleague in education has actually spent over 25, probably $30 million on gratuities and stuff like that owed to teachers. In my division, where we've done all of these cataract surgeries, we have all of these potholes that have been fixed. We have all of these things that have been happening so far, and we continue to build this house called Tobago.
So is that, can I amount that to suggest that it's a clear indication that, as far as you are saying, the same mandate remains applicable?
The same, we never stopped. And if you really look back at that tumultuous period, October, November, December, if you recognize the chief sec in his wisdom led us, and he led us in a way that allowed us to keep working. We insisted that no matter what was happening on the political front, the party front, we still took care of Tobago's business. Yes, many of us at night, we were bawling our eyes out because it was painful, but we got up the next morning, put on our suits and jacket and tie and whatnot, and went to work and took care of the people's mandate, because that is what we were elected to do.
How do you propose to deal with the fallout that will come naturally from the political leader of the PDP if he gets to the point of saying, but this is a PDP Tobago people mandate versus what is now being said by the TPP?
That is funny because being the person who was there since 2016, I could tell you without fear of contradiction that that person did the least amount of work as related to pulling these mandates together, without fear of contradiction. As a matter of fact, I could almost tell you that he probably hasn't even read the documents that he is talking about, that belongs to that he's claiming belongs to that particular party. Because you know what? We were the ones, Farley and I, Zia and I, all of us were the ones walking around, meeting with the farmers, pulling these things together. There are individuals who I will not call their names because they've never publicly said that they helped us, were with us 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just before the mandate is supposed to be launched, because we're begging somebody to do artwork for us. And literally 2 o'clock in the morning, we are going through. We have to cross that out. You have to add that it has to be released 8 o'clock in the morning. You know who was not a part of any of those processes? That gentleman. So I am not afraid of any possible noise that he's going to make, because he knows within himself, he honestly knows deep down within himself that he was not actively involved in this process, at least no more than any of the others of us who have been there and who are continuing to fulfill this mandate.
A very strong statement there, Dr. Faith. But we want to get, just before, because time is certainly running out, just before you leave, we want to get a sense for the TPP. What can we anticipate next in moving this to the point of an established political party? Of course, quite naturally, we would anticipate heading towards the next general and Tobago House of Assembly elections.
Certainly, well, we are heading towards those elections whenever they happen. Of course, we need to do the official registration. The registration requires us to have a symbol, and that is the next step in terms of us deciding collectively this is a symbol we are going to go for. At the last meeting, people threw up different ideas. We now have graphics people pulling those ideas together so that we could come back and vote again on, okay, this is a symbol we're going to use. We have a draft constitution that has already been prepared. People are there looking at the different pieces of it, and then we will do the actual registration of the organization. But again, it's important for us to recognize that those of us who are the assemblymen, those of us who are the secretaries and assistant secretaries, we are not the ones who are really pushing this. We are not the ones who are doing all of this hard work. The people, the supporters, the ones who are saying, we need you all to get yourselves back together, are the ones doing this. We are laser focused on ensuring that we fulfill the mandate of Tobago, while the supporters on the ground, these teams of people, are the ones helping us build this party from the ground up.
The Chief Secretary has indicated to the Prime Minister that he should mind his business. The TPP is still in its formation stages. Tell me, can Tobago anticipate an election by the time the party has been registered, or is it that elections will only be called when elections are constitutionally due? That's a common language that seems to happen in the political world. What's the position of the TPP?
And that was my official response to all of the media people who reached out. We are going to have elections when elections are constitutionally due. I know that people are having an uproar by the use of the word damn, and I am going to say that we stand very, very squarely behind our interim political leader, behind our chief sec, telling the political leader of the PNM, who just happens to be the Prime Minister, to stay in his lane. And as a matter of fact, if it were me, I would probably use more colorful language. I would probably be up here apologizing again, Julien, because of the language that I used, because of how insensitive and how disruptive that's the entire op-ed. And, you know, could you imagine if we were in a situation where Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar had written that op-ed when Chief Secretary Orville London was here? How the whole of the PNM would have turned upside down, stating disrespect and so forth. So no, there is going to be an election when the elections are constitutionally due. Now, if they want to hurry that up and want to give us the proper autonomy bill, that can trigger an election. So if we really want to have that conversation, we can have that conversation, Julien, with them, but when it is constitutionally due.
Very interesting. And in true political form, she makes loaded statements at the end when I can't even explore those questions because directors are shouting that we're just out of time. Thank you very much, Dr. Faith B.Yisrael, bringing us some updates here from the TPP, new political party on the horizon, where things are at, and a firm indication to the people of Tobago and beyond that the mandate remains Tobago's mandate, and therefore they intend to continue to focus on carrying out and executing that mandate. We look forward to the follow-up that will come from this as we hear from others, particularly the political leader of the PDP, when he speaks in giving his response and position regarding the new Tobago People's Party. So thank you very much again, Dr. Faith B.Yisrael, for joining us here on set. ahead. Viewers, we want to thank you so much for the continued love and support and for choosing the Tobago Updates morning show. We prepare coming up in our next segment, Braden Roberts, Tobago officer for Tutor, and we look forward to hearing of those discussions coming up next with Braden as we speak about issues within our, our teachers and our students and that combination of the school system. We look forward to getting even his perspective on the happenings in relation to what took place within late last week with the bomb scare at a time like now. Very interesting development in 2023. Folks, imagine we've gotten technological. Just a few years ago when I was at school, it was a call that will probably happen and you say that there's a bomb scare and you can't trace the number. Imagine now an email is being sent. We look forward to hearing the perspective of Tutor on that as well. Viewers, we want to thank you so much for the continued love and support and to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.